And we're going. In the Parsha. Happy Hanukkah to everybody. The Festival of Enoch. Hanuk is Enoch. Hanukkah, that's the lights of Enoch. Metatron, that's Pshat. And the Sod. That's Pshat and the Sod. So today we get to study Torah for the sake of heaven, for the sake of Israel and all Jerusalem. And we'd like to give the merit of our Torah and study to Stephen King, Abraham Ben Moshe Gilla, Jason Shelton, Linda Flora, Hanan Samantha Hong, Phoebe Bridges, David Fay, Paul Navarez, Garrett Mattlage, Stacy Mattlage, Jordan Mattlage, Patients of Texas Oncology, Rita Wilson, Betty Munkuski, Lola of Daughter, Justin Lakeisha Neal, Berea One Staff, Salvera Avizu, Albert Bear, Billy Holt, Darlene Youts, Jake Sutherland, Casey Grubb, Noah Cardoza, David Douglas, Leanne Clemens, Tom and Karen Maitland, Mark Wayne Myers, Carol Tickle, Larry Langberg, Jilton Navarez, Amanda Waller, and daughter Patricia Mahan, Gilbert Julian Sheffield, Yehuda Ben Matai Joyce Kirk, David Jenkins, Jake Suarez, Jim and Joyce Rogers, Sally Talamontes of Rogers family, Sean and Wendy Shepard, Damian Washington, Carol Scott and family, Rabbi Richmond, Maurice Greenwood, Gracie Bellender, Brett Richardson, Brandy Boots, Amanda Elliott, Benson Ewing, Carol's family, Baby Denarn, Michelle Magnuson, Jenna Marie, Kimberly Brown, Debbie January, Schiffer Martin, Sandra Hirth, Elvia Rosas, Shelby Williams, Gloria Culliver, Jerry Mattlage, Dylan Tickle, Amber Merchant, Terry Thomas, Celinda Sheffields, Louis Gutierrez and family, Aaron Price, Jazreeth Carroll, Chad Jefferson, Yohavad Batsera, Shirley Mayers, Dakota Miller, Jerry Gregory, John Scott, Dixie Pring, Lindsay Welch, Brand's family, Jeanette Town, Todd Sheffield, Terry Rosentrader, Alanis Perez, John Graceford, Debbie Henson, Rachel James, Anita Jones, Jessica Ross, Carrie Knott, Salvador Gutierrez and family, Jacob and Simca, Max Wagner, son of Marcy Wagner, Elliot Mattlage, Mark Mattlage, Emily Battova, Jackie Cup, Nain Bat Miriam, Carla Manzanares, Beth Carmen, Alton Tillman, Brian McComas, Sarah Batsera, and Dakota Miller.
I seen Sandra Hirth yesterday, and she got her kidney transplant, and she looks marvelous.
Absolutely great.
Everything's tucked and going good.
Great, man.
Got it, and just the fact she got the transplant
on the list, yeah.
Yeah, got the transplant, but then it took, and so she looks good. So
Baruch Hashem.
And Celinda's we need to pray for her husband Gil also.
Yeah, she was taking Gil today. They
to
did
Arizona
for treatment. So Gil Sheffield will special merit for Gil. When you the Torah, there was Issachar, one of the sons, Issachar, and his job was to study the Torah. And one of the other tribes, Zebulon, his job was to go. He was a fisherman. He was a seaman, and so his job was to study the Torah because they would basically feeding everybody, and so the merit that they would give them their merit for studying Torah as if they had done it.
Right.
And so that's the basis of you are able to study Torah for someone that cannot, and give them the merit. And it's a very, very powerful thing. It's incredibly powerful thing. And so especially for the soul, and once the soul passes, because the merit of the Torah is the only thing you take with you. And if you're studying for Torah for people and giving them the merit, it's a huge thing, So we're just blessed we can do that. And I'd also like to thank everybody for sending out your happy birthday wish. I hit my Shane Ben, my 52. I know my birthday on there says 53, but when I entered it in, I entered the wrong date, wrong year. So anyway. But thanks to everybody again for all the kind words. Root of the universe and master of all masters, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of our fathers, by bowing down and kneeling that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and that you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor. That is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all of our sins, and they should not bring separation between you and us. And may it be your will before you, our God and the God of our fathers, that you awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you. May you listen to our utterances and open our closed heart to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor as a aroma of sweet incense. And may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants through which you revealed your wisdom to the world, shine. And may their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us, so we shall not stumble through our study. See, now we're using their merit. And by their merit, enlighten our eyes in our learning, as stated by King David, the sweet singer of Israel. Open my eyes so that I will see the wonders from your Torah, because from his mouth God gives wisdom and understanding. May the utterance of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. All right, Parsha time. If you haven't read your Parsha, it's always advantageous to do, because I can't read the whole Parsha because it would take up our entire time in the deal. So I'm going to hit the highlights of the Parsha. Now, this Parsha is very unique because it's talking about Joseph and everything that's going on with Joseph. But it has something strange right in the middle of it, is the story of Tamar and Judah. You're going along, and poof, right here is a story about a girl that poses as a prostitute, and is going to sleep with her father-in-law. I mean, it's just odd, and the circumstances are odd. And I mean, it just sounds like who in the world would do such a thing? Okay. There is I'm going to paraphrase it, but there is a Torah saying that the sages say that it is better to do a transgression for the sake of heaven than to do the mitzvahs with no kavanah, no intent, that you're just going through the motion, blah, 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 blah. You're just doing it because you got to do it. It's better to do a transgression for the sake of heaven than it is to do a mitzvah with no kavanah. So this is what she's doing. Of course, we're going to go into it all the way. Absolutely, because that's what we do. But what is the oversoul going on here? What is happening? This is the tale of the twin messiahs. You can't talk about one Messiah ben Joseph, if you don't talk about Messiah ben David. And this is the progenitor of both. So this is why there is because Joseph is Yesod. So the big majority of this whole piece is about Joseph. Malchut is small compared to, just like when we read Esther on Purim. The last one is Malchut. It's one letter. It's one line. But the chapter before it is Yesod. It's the biggest chapter in the book. Same way here. So right here in the center of the Parsha is a little ditty about Judah and Tamar. Now, I have the Murky Roots of Monarchy that it tells you it's fantastic, showing how basically in Job it says, can something good come out of something wicked? God, Hashem asked Job, he says, can you make something good come out of something wicked? All right? And what that is he's explaining all of the holy sparks have fallen into the tohu. And so out of the tohu come all the holy sparks. And, you got to do whatever you got to do to get them out of there. And this is what Tamar did. She knew. We all have to say, they all know what's going on. So this deal, I will post it up on my page, and y'all can read it at your own leisure. It is a fantastic read. It starts all the way back with Lot and goes through Ruth and Tamar, and I think even Yael and the piece in the Gemara on this is even narrated by Yael about Judah and Tamar. Why? Because she did the same thing to Sisera in Judges. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of these things going on that they're drawing out the sparks. And so this is what Potiphar's wife tried to do. That was Lilith trying to take them the other way. And so everything in Torah is about Adam trying to retrieve everything he lost. And where did he lose it? In the 130 years in the river. But when he was separated from Hava. This is why Joseph has to go down to Egypt. Because those 70 souls they're got to go down there. And those 70 souls, all of Adam's Nitzot sparks are embedded in Egypt, which is the Tohu, right? And so this is why all these guys always continue to have to go down. They have to go down, they have to come up. All right? So this is one of the overlying structures that's always happening throughout the Torah, because this is what Adam is thinking, this is what Adam is having to do. So as you read through the Parsha, you will see he's got to go here, then he's got to go here, then he's got to go here. And then all he does is make an opening, just like a carpenter. You know, you don't just take a board and just hammer a nail in it, and then your nail hit a knot or something like that. You know, you drill a hole, a guide hole, and then you put the screw in behind it or the nail in behind it. Joseph is opening up the portal because he's Yesod, but he's Yesod Zah, Adam. Whereas Moshe is Yesod Abba, he comes down and he pulls everything out. Greater, lesser, higher, lower. You see what I'm saying? So this whole thing is happening in this. So let's go through the Parsha a little bit. And the first thing that comes to our attention here is, I'm just going to pick out some words here. In the second verse, it has to tell us how old he is. And it's really odd. These are the Chronicles of Jacob. Well, why doesn't it tell us about the Chronicles of Jacob? It doesn't tell us about the Chronicles of Jacob. It just says, Joseph. That's when you know the Torah is fixing to come drop a bomb on you. And at the age of 17, why do we have to know how old he is? Does it matter? We never figured out how old Isaac was unless you go into the gematria of the word, that he was 37 at the time of the Akedah. But they're serious about this right here. Oh, he was 17. 17 is the gematria of Tov. He's the ultimate good. Then God saw the light and it was Tov. That's Yesod, baby. Here he is, right here. Here he is. Because Jacob is Adam and there's his Yesod and it is Tov. Now, but he was a youth with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. Now, Joseph would bring evil reports from them about their father. What is a youth? Ne'ar. He's Metatron. He is no question Metatron. Because one more year is 18, and that's Haya. That's the spine. And what does he say at the end of the parsha? At the end when he sees Joseph? Od Yosef. Joseph lives. There's the 18. See, this is the spinal structure of the holy Nakash. They know what's going on. And in verse 3, it goes real quick. It goes, what we were talking about Jacob, and now we're talking about Israel. Anytime you're reading in the Torah about Jacob, and it says Jacob, it's talking 3D land. Anytime it says Israel, you've got to go 4D right there. That's where you make the switch. He loved Joseph more than all his sons since he was a child of his old age. Well, there's a kasha here. Benjamin was the child of his old age, not him. So we have to see what's going on there. We're going to go through the woolen tunic. We're going to talk about that. Why was he bringing evil reports about his brothers? Why were they not able to speak peaceable to him? All right. So Joseph is saying his brothers are eating from a limb of a living animal. They're that Noahide commandment, or the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach. They're eating limbs of a living animal, and they're also having illicit union with the Canaanite women in the neighborhood. All right. Now, Why would he make those two accusations? What is he protecting them from? Defiling what? Yesod. The liver of a living animal is Yesod. Aver high. What are they doing? Defiling Yesod. Okay? Now, conversely, why are they mad at him? Because he's hanging out. Oh, well, we know he's dressing up in flousy wear. You know, he's putting on makeup. He's doing all this. He's hugging and kissing the sons of Zilpah and Bilhah, and because they're the backside. They're on the back. Rachel and Leah are the front side. He's hanging out with the backside kids. They know those women are from the other side. They know they're not the front side. Now, those women are holy of holies, but not relative to Rachel and Leah. And so what do they know? The klipa always comes out in the kids. We know Ishmael was the klipa. We know Esau was the klipa. Joseph has to be the klipa. He's the only one looking like a squirrel. What are they trying to do? Get rid of the klipa. They know what they're doing. They're tzaddiks. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the things here. Let's go the apples first. All right. Joseph's brothers, they thought he was the dregs of the dregs. They thought he was the klipa of klipas. Okay? That this was the klipa shell that was rejected from Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael and Esau on the left, and had still not been finally purified. They didn't think it was finally purified. Joseph was the emanation of the klipa. So Joseph's brothers knew that in both cases of Abraham and Isaac, there were two sons, one worthy of perpetuating the consciousness of God in the world, and the other too egocentric to do so. When here Joseph is looking very egocentric. They further knew in both cases the unworthy son had to be sent away, eliminated in some way, so that the family, in order to purify the contamination and not be poisoned by the egocentric contender in the family. So they're plotting on how to get rid of the klipa. They know what they're doing. Similarly, they perceived Joseph was unfit to be a contender in their generation. The original light of Abraham had been purified of its impurities and by the rejection of Ishmael. When this light passed on to Isaac, it still contained some secondary impurities that had to be and were eliminated by the rejection of Esau. Joseph, they felt, was the embodiment of the impurities of Jacob that had to be rejected. Thus, they considered it their sacred duty, and for the sake of perpetuation of this divinity entrusted to Abraham and his descendants, to eliminate Joseph from the picture. Yesod is also there's two Yesods. One's always 3D, one's always 4D. The lower Yesod is the one that creates babies. The other is the tongue. So if he's slandering them, they're saying he's not protecting Yesod. So we are told in the narrative, Joseph brought evil reports to the father. Rashi says he told his father they were eating flesh torn from a live animal, and that they made fun of the sons of the handmaidens, Bilhah and Zilpah. So what's he trying? He's saying he's bringing an evil report about them, but what is he saying? They're not guarding their Yesod, calling them slaves, and he suspected them with illicit sexual relations. In the idiom of our sages, peace is termed by the ultimate vessel for containing blessing. This is clear. We'll go to the next one. Yesod. is also the discipline of the tongue, and slander blemishes it. So they're trying to harness the speech from Yesod. In fact, however, there are many expounders in the Torah who say that Joseph's brothers ate flesh torn from this and this, the Abram Menachai, right? And looked at the daughters of the land. All of this is connected to Yesod. It is explained that the motivation for eating flesh torn from the body of a living animal is like ecstasy. It gives extra orgasmic pleasure, and this brings from ingesting the raw, unrectified, unritually slaughtered meat. This high power assumes sexual proportions in mind and body of one doing this, and this therefore blemishes Yesod. This is the whole aphrodisiac of eating like oysters. They're live for all practical purposes. Thus, in reality, it was not Joseph that was blemishing Yesod, but his brothers. By their report of behavior to their father, Joseph was trying to safeguard the integrity of Yesod. So just when you think Joseph looks like the bad guy, he's not. Everything in Torah is counterintuitive. So, let me see if I made anything. So, what is the secret of Tamar and Judah in this piece? What is she trying to do? The first son didn't want her to get pregnant because he didn't want her to get fat. You know, she was gorgeous of gorgeous. And he didn't want the pregnancy to, you know, give her stretch marks or whatever, you know, go through the regular pregnancy deal. So he emitted seed on the ground. God killed him. What did he not do? Protect Yesod. What happened to the second son? Same thing. What did he not do? Protect Yesod. Now the other one, Shelah, is the katnut, the constricting term of the expanded term of Shiloh. What do we know about the scepter will not depart from Judah until Shiloh comes? Shiloh is gematria Moses. So Moses is Shiloh. Shelah, the third son, is in a constricted state. We will wait for him to mature, to become godly. What is she doing? She's like, I can't wait for him. We have to protect Yesod. We have to get the Malchut, the tip of Yesod, the Davidic Mashiach has to come into being. I have to do whatever I have to do to make sure the Davidic Messiah comes into earth. This is what her Havamina is. Because she's doing the same thing Joseph's doing, she's protecting Yesod. Therefore, it is accounted righteousness to her. Tamar is the Shekhinah. Of course, right? Who is in exile from her husband. And this is those who accompanies us into exile after God killed off all the evil generations among the Jews. Who are these? And Onan. Some of the Jews who lived during the time of the destruction of the temple did heinous sins, and the first temple was destroyed, second temple was destroyed. These are following this whole deal. Even though God exiled the Jewish people, his divine presence is Shekhinah, accompanies us always. So even though she's in the Klippa and may look like a harlot, she's not. She's far from it. Okay? That's why it says in Song of Songs, I'm black but homely. I've got the tohu all over me, but I'm beautiful. You know? Tamar was Judah's daughter-in-law, married his son Ur. Ur did not want pregnancy to damage her beauty. So he withdrew, before completing intercourse, and wasted his seed on the ground. And God punished him and killed him. Judah's second son, Onan, the same way. In order to perpetuate the name, to fulfill the commandment of the Levirate marriage, the Yibum, Onan, knowing that the child of their union was not going to be considered his, therefore he withdrew from the intercourse, and God punished him by killing him. Judah eventually did not know why his sons had to die. He had a third son, Shelah, but it hesitated to have him marry Tamar because he was afraid cause of her other two husbands' death, somehow or another. So that he didn't want his youngest son to meet the fate of his other two sons. So that gave him the excuse for them not to be married. This is what it says, and wait until Shelah grows up, implying that he is still too young. This refers to the Jewish people in exile. They ain't grown up yet. Implying that he is still too young. This means that she should wait until Shelah is filled with the letter Yud, indicating the supernal light. The state is alluded to in the verse, behold, I have made you the smallest among nations. You are very despised. The Shekhinah is destined to mate with Shelah, attains from the mature form known as Shiloh. And what happened? Moses, Shiloh, come into the tent. And what did he have to do? He had to put Zipporah away because he was in union with the Shekhinah. It's all setting this up. Shelah will remain in exile until Shiloh comes, which refers to Mashiach. That was the micro. Mashiach will be the macro, even though what Moses did wasn't micro. It's going to be compared to what Mashiach does in the end. Because Messiah will possess the soul of Moshe. Therefore, on his deathbed, Jacob prophesied, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the lawgiver among his descendants, until Shiloh comes, unto whom the nations shall gather. Shiloh in the verse is the Mashiach, Moshe Rabbeinu. So, this is why God decreed that the Shekhinah should be like a widow, because he feared lest he die as his brothers. Therefore, she remains a widow without a husband until Mashiach comes, i.e., until Shiloh grows up, till Messiah comes. This is why Jacob said, lest he also die, referring to the one spark of Messiah that comes in every generation. Do not marry him, he said, until he matures. He will then come to redeem Israel by God's will. So that is a little bit of the Arizal. Let's look a little bit here. I want to go through a little bit of Agadata, and then we're going to go through Vali. Just some of the things I thought were cool. One, Yosef observed Shabbat before it was even commanded to be observed.
Oh my goodness.
How about that? Isn't that something? I wonder where he learned that from. You think he got that from Jacob, and you think Jacob got that from Isaac, and you think Isaac got that from Abraham, and you think Abraham got that from Noah and the tents of Shem and Eber?
And they got it.
So they did Shabbat. They did all the Torah. To even say that they didn't is heresy. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, because by your life I will repay your descendants by having him offer sacrifices on Shabbat, as it was written in Numbers 7:48, on the seventh day, the prince of the sons of Ephraim did the sacrifice on Shabbat. Because he did that, his sons got to do the sacrifice on Shabbat. The Chronicles of Joseph, whatever happened whatever happened to one happened to the other. Jacob was hated by his brother. Joseph was hated by his brothers. Why? They're both Adam. One is just an expanded out Adam. You know, Abraham, boom. Isaac, boom. Jacob, boom. Joseph. All right? The sons of the handmaidens of Bilhah and Zilpah, and that was one of the things that they thought was that's a little weird. That's a little shady there, Joseph. Evil reports. He saw his brothers cutting the limbs of live animals. But what was it? Were they really eating the limbs of live animals? God forbid. No. They were cutting the ears and tails off of them in order to heal them because they had an affliction that attacked their ears and tails. But he thought that they intended to eat them. But they were righteous. They weren't going to eat them. They were healing the animals from their affliction. Just as Joseph separated from his father for 22 years, just like Jacob separated from his father for 22 years. The story's lining up on top of itself. There were two pits. One pit had pebbles and the other one was full of snakes and scorpions. Do y'all remember the Gemara about when you're praying, if a snake's wrapped around your leg, you keep going. If the scorpion is on your leg, you stop. Remember that? Joseph was afraid of snakes and scorpions in the pit, and he cried out, whereupon God hid the snakes and scorpions in the walls of the pit so they would not hurt him. What is going on? Remember, one is idolatry. Snakes is yesod, sexual thoughts. But scorpions is idolatry. So when you're praying, and even if you have sexual thoughts, you press through it and you take that, turn it inside out. But if you have idolatrous thoughts, you stop. So what is in the pit? The pit is the hole in the backside. What's in the hole in the backside? Idolatry and illicit sexual thoughts. Jacob doesn't like either one of them, so God hid them from him. Why? He's yesod. That's how you go through the Gemara. The spice, normally the Ishmaelites and stuff carried very foul things. They were traders and stuff. But on this trip, they had spices, balsam, and lotus. They generally carried loads of skins and resins, which has a foul odor. But for the sake of the righteous Joseph, the Holy One arranged that they would be carrying sacks full of spices. So it says in Genesis 39:11 that he entered his house to do work. What is entering his house to do work? It was Shabbat. What did he have to do? Study Torah. As his father had taught him. Of course, you're not going to get that from the no-no-ad. The image of the Father appeared. Oh, that's when we get into a little bit of Tamar now. If you have your Chumash there, you will. If you look at the bottom, the Midrash says that they had facial features, meaning that Jacob favored Joseph because they resembled one another. They're making the correlation here. All right. The vocation of a tzaddik, the reapers of the field. Backing up just a little, the 17 is the Tov. This is the organuz. This is the ultimate good, because Joseph is the same gematria as Zion. So we're talking super yesod here. Zion, the ultimate good, the union of 3D, 4D. This is because they are doing beaver extraction for the Malchut. This is the secret of the holy apples. Removing the nitzots for the nukva and elevate them. This is the secret of binding sheaves. They were binding sheaves. Who was binding sheaves? All of the brothers. Because they were tzaddiks. They were extracting holy sparks. This term in Torah is known as binding sheaves. Why? Why in the midst of the field? Because the tzaddikim are do the most precious work as in the pinimi, the inner, but they do their work in the fields, in the tohu. What greater tzaddikim than the holy tribes? But they all have a mission and a task. The most important was Joseph, because he was the center. He was the male Yesod, and his brothers were female relative to him. He is Yesod, they are the Malchut. That's why his was taller and longer in the middle. They are the collective Malchut, the kingdom. He is what's feeding the kingdom. He's Yesod. So relative to him, they are the Nukva. Therefore, he is in the center. They are external relative to him. Therefore, he is having the zivug, the zivug, the union with the central point of Zion, because Zion is Joseph. Joseph knows that he is this Messiah ben Yosef. And Judah, Tamar, relative, knows she's got to bring Messiah ben David. It says a child of his old age. He is Joseph is Yesod Yaakov ben Zakonim. He received the secrets. Why does he say a child of his old age? Because this word that they use here, Zakonim, he's the child that he transferred all of the teachings of Shem and Eber to. So Joseph has his father's Torah. He knows everything that his father taught him. That's why the term is not old. It's a child of my wisdom. I was young and now I'm old, and I've yet to see the righteous forsaken. This old here is Hokmah, wisdom. The Ancient of Days, or Recon Peen. So they had elevated up to this point together. The word jealousy, kinah, is 156. They were jealous of this brother.
156.
156 is also the gematria of Messiah ben Joseph. Therefore, they were jealous. They knew what he was. When somebody is elevated higher than you, you get envious and jealous. And they hate you, don't they, Russell? They hate the truth. Why are they jealous? They are jealous for the truth. For they also know about Ishmael and Esau and the Klippa. And they know the Klippa precedes the fruit. But he is Metatron. He is the youth. He is the Na'ar. And they know it, and he knows it. He loved him more. He was the 17. He was the completion from Katnut to Gadlut. These are all the lights of Tov. The lights of Tov in Torah are known as the sheep. He was a shepherd of the sheep. These are the lights of Tov. Because sheep are Hasidim that are pouring in. He is the male and they are the female. He is the youth thrown into the pit and sold as a slave. This is measure for measure. That is happening. He's got to go down, measure for measure, coming out. Because he is acting so weird, they believe this can only mean that he is infected with the Klippa virus. Therefore, he had to go to the Klippa and redeem them. because they measure for measure, because they thought he was infected with a cleat, but guess what? They got caught by it. He had to go get them. He had to pull them out. Even though he was right, he fed the other side because of the way he acted with the sons of other side of Bilhah and Zilpah. He was hanging out with them. The Hitzonim were there to trap him in his tongue, upper and lower Yesod. This is why he got caught in the trap. Because they thought, had he grown up with Leah's sons, there would be no Hitzonim. Therefore, he wouldn't have got caught in the trap. The tunic is a result of this old age. So right after this old age, we see, oh, it made him a tunic. Okay? An old tunic is equals the old age, and the old age equals Jacob, and this is the true Messiah ben Joseph. Jacob knew that the root of Joseph, he knew the root of Joseph, and he knew where Joseph was coming from. This is why he would kind of pass it off as no big deal. Because he knows what Jacob knows what's going on too. Because he knew he was in Katnu, and even though unbecoming, they always know, even Jacob. But Jacob knows one thing. He knows he's royalty. Because Jacob had a dream and God showed him everything all the way to the end of days. He knows exactly what's going on. But Joseph knows he's royalty too. Because he knows everything Jacob knows. Because it had been transmitted to him. He knows that once he becomes 18, it's time for Gadlut. This is why it's called Zakonim. Without the Vav, Ben Zakonim, a child in his old age. The highest level he reached, the level of a reek. Why does it say Israel when it starts this piece about Israel's old age? Because they went 4D on you right there, and now what is old in Atzilut? A reek. Because Yosef is Yesod and he is Teferet. They are one thing. Vakut, love, means I loved him because they're one thing. They're in union. They're not separate. This is not the child of his old age because Benjamin was the child of his old age. Since the essence of Joseph is more essential, therefore he needs to make him an external garment. Joseph is more essential than the others because he is Yesod. Therefore, he needs to make an external garment for him. So, to match his internal self. Therefore, he made him Zakain. Zion Kuf Nun. Kana is one who requires wisdom. Whatever Jacob learned in yeshiva of Shem and Aver in the 14 years, he transmitted to Yosef. Old age is the secret of wisdom. In the future, he would rule, and the yesod of the kingdom. The sod is in the pashat of the word, fine woolen tunic. It's called a ketonim pasim is the word in Hebrew. Ketonim pasim, fine woolen tunic. The secret of pasim is this. As Joseph is the yesod and Malchut covers the yesod, so too did the coat cover him. This is a tikkun for Jacob as Teferet, as well as Joseph, Yesod. Pei, Samik, Yud, Mem is pasim, is 190. This is the same as the edge or the end. It's the same word used as kates, kuf tzadik, which is adding that all up is the term for malchut. So basically, this coat is the malchut he's putting on. Why does it say he made it for him? Why doesn't it say he gave it to him? I gave him a coat, but I made him a coat. Because the malchut is the aspect of Asiya, the world of making, where they're going to. This is happening way up there. He is making Asiya for him at this point. This is what is happening. And Asiya covers Yetzirah, and that covers Berea, and then push it all back up. The one's inside the other at that point. The brothers were jealous. They are lower than Jacob collectively. Nothing causes jealousy more than knowing you are lower than somebody. When someone's stature increased, all the more so they are as jealous. It increases their jealous. Why? Because they have the same father. How come he gets everything?
Yeah, that ain't never happened.
Yeah.
Everybody's got 3 kids that knows that.
Yeah. Because the secret of the matter is this, Rav Vali says, it's not about your bloodline, it's about your soul Gilgal. It's about your soul root. If people are jealous over you in Torah, it's about your soul root. It has nothing to do with your bloodline or not.
Yeah.
Therefore, this external garment, this pasim, caused the hatred. Pasim, we're going to take PSM. These talk about the things he was sold into in the word of the coat. The pay is Potiphar. The Samach is the Sochar, or the Ishmaelite traders, the businessmen. And the Mem is the Midianites. So, why? He's fixing to go into the Malchut. What's going to be there? In the Pasim? Potiphar, the Ishmaelites, and the Midianites. So the coat is a coordinate more than a covering. When his stature was external, this revealed the hate. Once his inside is now revealed on the outside, this brought the hate out from his brothers. We learn but we learn of the greatness of his brothers as well, because it says they stopped their speech. In verse 4, they could not speak to him peaceably. It's not that they wouldn't speak to him, they couldn't speak. That's why it's written in such a way. It's not they couldn't say good things about him, they couldn't say. And 7, see, it says, behold, we were binding sheaves. See, they're all doing the beaver. So back in Ravala here. They were stopped from speaking. They could not go the way of the Sitra Achra. They were tzaddiks and zealots for the truth. And their words were in line with their hearts. So when you speak and your words are in line with your hearts, it's one thing. But the Sitra Achra thinks one thing and says another. And so many people do it. They're thinking one thing about you, but then they're saying, oh man, you're the greatest guy I ever met. Man, I love you, man, you're awesome. And the whole time the Sitra Achra thinking, oh, I can't stand this sucker. That is the Sitra Achra. They stopped that process because they were tzaddiks. Hashem did this because if they had had the power, if they had to have the power of Holy Yesod, they would have been like a holy klipa over the real klipa. If it had power over Joseph before the brothers, they would have brought destruction of Israel and the whole world. There would have been no way to get this out of the hands of the klipa, because Joseph was Holy Yesod. But this was like an immunization for Joseph. He got a little on him. He got the flu and he got okay. Because why? He's fixing to have to go to Egypt and get a bunch on him. And the brothers knew and believed this was the case. Why was Jacob not consoled about his kid? It says, and Jacob was unable to be consoled because he knows he's alive. And that's why he said at the end, Od Yosef Chai. There's your 18. The Chai is the higher root that was never contaminated by his brothers or in Egypt. The klipa of the brothers therefore saved Joseph. Therefore, the real power of the klipa had no power over him. It's like this. You got a bunch of brothers. Your brothers were beating on you all the time, beating you up, but they never really knock your teeth out. They never really give you a black eye, but they're constantly hitting you with stuff. You learn to fight pretty good if you're fighting 11 brothers all the time. When you get in the real fight, you've fought your whole life. It's a little immunization deal for the big one. This is what was going on behind the scenes with the brothers. Therefore, when Jacob got out there amongst the mean klipa, he was ready to roll. This is why in the end the whole nation left Egypt and it was emptied, because he had destroyed the whole thing. He had overcome the entire klipa. He set it up for Moshe Rabbeinu. They took everything. This is the secret why they could not speak peaceably. They could not go against the divine decree that they knew Hashem was doing. These guys are tzaddikim. Joseph was the vehicle for Jacob to enter into Egypt via Adam. Therefore, Yesod Abba, Moshe, could come in and finish it off. See how a little bit, going a little deeper, a little deeper, a little deeper. Then ultimately, God, Havayah, can redeem the whole world. Mashiach. Which is the secret of the covenant. Which is the secret of the bris. Which is the secret of Yesod. Which is the secret of Messiah ben Joseph in our day. Because Adam has to get the 130 years back. And what did he lose in those 130 years? The 70 nations. This whole story is about the redemption of not only the Jews, it's about the redemption of us. Because he pulled the 70 nations out of Egypt, ultimately. 70 souls, what comes out? 70 nations. What happens? Messiah ben Joseph, Shekhinah is in exile here in Texas and Alabama, wherever you're at.
Yeah, it's so self-explanatory.
And Joseph set it all up.
Yeah.
Because it's like the mother calling to the calf. I got milk, you're hungry. When the righteous leave a place, the place dies. Or even if they're removed. Justice cannot be brought into the world if the righteous are in it. Why do great tzaddiks die? So that God can destroy that country. Or whoever. Because as long as the tzaddik's there, they have protection. When Yosef died, they said, "Come, let us deal wisely with them and make their lives bitter." In Egypt. The Arizal says, they planned to kill him. The brothers thought, if he's the dregs of the dregs, the Klippa of the Klippa, which had been separated from Isaac and Abraham through Ishmael and Esau, then we need to kill him. The other thing on the pasim, the other thing on the woolen coat, there's a lot going on with this coat because it's the Malchut. The Arizal says the mem of pasim is none other than Metatron, as is known. And Yosef is Metatron. The pei opens and the samach closes. Metatron's opening and closing this thing. Opening Malchut, closing Malchut. And he says, for the other mem, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, because this whole pasim is the neshama of Adam, and the yud is Joseph in pasim. The yud that's in pasim. So he's putting on the neshama of Adam. That's pretty huge. Now, so we covered a lot of that. Y'all can read about the Ishmaelites and the Midian men. We kind of went through all that. We're going to get into, we got, how much time we got? We still good? Oh man. Y'all want to go a little longer and go through Tamar right quick?
Yeah, let's get Tamar in.
All right. So one thing we see here in before we get to Tamar is a guy called an Adulamite whose name was Hira. There's your Ger right there. Mm-hmm. There's your Noga right between Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David. So turn to chapter 38:13 and we'll blast through Tamar. I don't know if we're even we'll end with Joseph and Potiphar's wife. So just real quick, big words in here. And Tamar was told. Who told her? Sitting at the crossroads. We have to know what the crossroads are. We have to know what Timnah is. We have to know what a harlot is, and we have to know why she covered her face. We have to know why he was sending him a kid of goats. We have to know what a signet ring is, a wrap, and a staff. And we have to know what a prostitute is. What's the difference between a prostitute and a harlot? So those are the things we have to pull up. If you have a Chumash that looks like this, if you will look in the bottom right-hand page on page 210, Rabbi Yochanan said, Judah sought to pass by Tamar. The Holy One, blessed be he, dispatched the angel of lust to entrap him. The angel said to Judah, where are you going? From where will kings arise? From where will great men arise? Then Judah was sent to her by the road, and he was coerced by her. Here's the beauty of this. Everybody will say, oh, you don't need Kabbalah, you don't need Kabbalah, you don't need to study any of that stuff. You just learn the Torah. Well, guess what? If you don't know Kabbalah, you cannot know what the heck is going on here in the story of Tamar. And the writers of Art Scroll tell you right there. In the terminology of Kabbalah, the sparks of goodness are scattered throughout creation. They're telling you the Hitzonim, they're doing Beaver. If it applies here in this page, it applies on every page, people. And it's the task of Israel to gather them up. There was a spark in Canaan, it was lodged in Tamar, and of his own free will, Judah never united with her, but the angel forced him to do it, blah, 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 blah. Here's the difference between the Kabbalah and what do? They back it right up in the next verse. But from the halakhic perspective, you see how they try to clean it up? They can't explain it any other way. So they have to clean it up and say, but the halakha is. Look, the intent of Torah is Kabbalah. The justification of Torah is halakha. The halakha has to justify what he did. But if you don't know why he did what he did, with the intent of what he did, all you're going to learn is justifications for everything. Why you can and cannot do something. You have no idea why you're doing it or why they did it. Because one is the intent of what's going on and one is the justification. And you see it right here in front of you. Now, let's go to the deal. He thought she was a zona, a harlot. That's a whore, straight up. Because they covered their faces back in those days. And it would be arrogant to stand with their face revealed. Harlots from that period until now, harlots were like that in that period. But and now he's saying, and this is 300 years ago, now they stand on the outside and call out. They've gotten arrogant. If you ask, what is the guarantee that the tzaddik would come by her way? How did she know that that would even happen? If I go right here and sit right here, he's going to come by and I got him. What's her havamina? She thinking that he would even be drawn to her. Does he even need her? He doesn't. How could she be confident that this holy man, and how could she be so confident that a holy man would have union with her? And on the other hand, how is she so confident that something holy would come out of an illicit union? Because she was doing it l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. She had Ruach HaKodesh. She was a prophetess. And the holy spark was in her, and she knows it. Because the souls in the Klippa of Lilith, because of the souls of the Klippa of Lilith, this is not possible for them to come out. In other words, she knows it's caught in the Klippa. Lilith's got it caught. The harlot has it caught. How do you get something from a harlot? You portray the harlot. She's going and doing chemical extraction out of Lilith. It's genius. Because only through transgression got it, transgression's got to pull it out. It can only come out that way, and she knows it. She knows her intent is so pure and so holy that this guaranteed her that Judah would come that way and he would be caught in it. Because the Malach, the angel of desire, was the one in charge. That she would succeed. A transgression done for the sake of heaven is greater than a mitzvah done without intent. With no Kabbalah, no Kavanah. Don't know what you're doing. And she knew also that she would be helped by the Shekhinah herself, for it says she sat at the crossroads, which is code for the Shekhinah. All eyes are opened up by the Shekhinah in every direction. They are opened up by her. This is the secret of crossroad. The secret of Timnah shares the same root as Tuma. The word for image. Not Tuma. The word for image. An image of God you will see. It's not for naught that she sat at the place, at the crossroads toward Timnah. Timnah is also, I found a deal that talk about the pardinim, but we won't get into that. You know, the pardinim, the red heifer, Timnah, the pardinim, which is Amalek, all that. We ain't getting into that today. Okay. Rectification by the way of kilkul. A disgrace to oneself. A corruption or damage is what she's doing. He turned toward her. He did not know. She was covered to her mouth. From this we know a tzaddik is not aroused by beauty, for he saw nothing. She's got a burqa on. You know what I'm saying? It was supernal will. It would have been good that she only asked for one thing. Should have been good enough. You give me one thing. But he offered her a kid. What is a kid? A kid is a gedi. Don't boil a kid in its mother's milk. Remember, the gi is the whole Metatronic thing. He knows what he's giving her, but that's coming later because he had to go get it.
Right.
So it would have been good enough that she asked for one thing. But she knows the Torah. For the Torah says you need 2 or 3 witnesses to confirm anything. Therefore, through her Ruach HaKodesh, she knew that 3 souls would be saved by these 3 things. She's in the formula. She's in the experimental room in the laboratory. The ring would save Perez, for his root comes from the kingdom, and kingship comes from the signet ring. The wrap is Zerach. Even though it comes through Perez, they are twins, clinging to one another as if he has wrapped himself to Perez. And staff is salvation, Yesod, that will save her. Because a woman is, in Torah, a woman is a staff of strength to her husband and a scepter to lean on for her man. She illuminates his eyes and stands him on his feet. But the secret of the matter is this. Rob Bali gives us all that, and then he says, but the secret is this. She requests these 3 things because they are the tikkun of the kingdom that will be transferred through Judah. 1, the ring, the hotim, because the 3 milui of Echiah, Bina, is hotim, which is 94. Through these 3 milui of Echiah, Asher Echiah, I am that I am. That's Bina, burning bush. This is the secret of the sealing of this. You know, what you do with a signet ring, you seal the letter. What is this going to do? It is going to seal up her Yesod, the Hotim, and protect it against the Hitzonim of the other side. Why? Because she's stealing this back from Lilith, the spark of David, that was trapped in Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah, that's got its way now to her. The cloak. The cloak is the 10 levels of the Malchut that are going to be rectified and become a partsuf, because patil is the word for cloak. Its gematria is 520. This is 10 times Shem Ben, the Malchut, which she is, the Shekhinah, Shem Ben. And the staff, the koach of the Malchut. That is, this is the thing that will have judgment on the wicked. For it is a mate. Mate is memtet. This is the Metatronic interface that will destroy the klipa. That's why Moses had his mate. Sometimes he had Aaron take my mate, sometimes take God's mate. Depends on what we got to do with the mate. The Dalet and Nun of Adonai is added to this. 49 plus 5 is 54, which is the secret of the judgment of the wicked. Therefore, he gave her all 3, and she had everything redeemed. Last but not least, Joseph is the best looking guy on the planet. Potiphar gets him. Potiphar gets castrated. What's the story? And Hashem castrates the male Leviathan. Who now is Potiphar's wife? That's Lil. Who is Joseph? He's Adam. She's trying to extract the sparks from him. In the midst of the union, he withdraws. And here's what the Gemara says. The image of his father appeared to him in the window. Joseph, he said, your brother, and he says his brothers' names, are destined to be inscribed on a stone of the high priest ephod, the breastplate. And you will be among them. Do you want your name to be erased? Do you want to be called an adulterer? Therefore, his bow was relaxed in vigor, and the seed of his hands were scattered. Genesis 49:24. What happens? His mother shows up in a vision. His father shows up in a vision. Who is that? Honor your father and mother. That's Abba and Ema. This makes him go 4D and elevate the sparks up. And so the drops come out of his fingers, not out of his yesod. Why? It says he struck his hands to the ground, and he bore all the weight on his fingers so that his thoughts would be focused on the pain and not on union. And this vigor would leave him, says Rashi. And the seed was channeled forth between his fingernails. Why did this happen? Because years later, about 2,000 years ago, the organus had ceased. The second temple was destroyed. God was going to destroy the entire world and send it back to Tohu. But those 10 seeds were the 10 martyrs of Rabbi Akiva and the 10 martyrs. Therefore, they were martyred and saved the world from going back to Tohu, and Joseph saved this 2,000 years before that to make it all work out. So, we went a little 10, 15 minutes long today, but anyway, wanted to get through all that. We didn't cover it all, but the Torah is amazing and the sages are amazing, and we'll see you next week. Happy Hanukkah, everybody.